Renegade, man, man, afraid man in the wilderness. Keep it real and honest, man. You know, tabloid. Good evening, good night, good morning. Yes, good morning. Yes, man. Good afternoon. Renegade, I'm here. All right, to the people who can't miss this, you know, it's so nice, you know. Just relax, open eat, you know, food and everything. I'm going to have a special guest. We'll talk to him right now. Yeah, yes. Now straight. The him soon come on still. Professor Professor Christopher Charles. Yeah? Professor Christopher Charles, you know, UWI, University of the West Indies. Right? And tonight, this evening, we're going to talk about Paul, you know. We're going to talk about Paul because, you know, yes. We have the professor because he teaches, I think, he teaches political social psychology at UWI. Right? So we have to draw for, you know, the professor, and then, you know, we get more insight on the Paul. Yes, great thing. Yes. All right. So him soon log on right now because him have a little glitch. Him have little glitches. Him a try log on right now. So in the meantime, me go play two things. Cause me go ask him about the money come on in. But let me just play that one at first. Let me just feature this one first. Right? And when him come on now, we're gonna talk about the polls. Because you have real polls, right? And you have some fake polls going around. Nobody know about it. You know, we don't buy fake, we don't buy post bag, you know. We don't look for fake polls. So we have yes, we don't look for fake polls. We keep it real around here. Okay? So I better we talk to, you know, yeah, we talk to the professional who deal with that. Now say go. Make we look on this. Look on this people. This is just the other day. Just look on this. Let me just do a look a feature before him sign on, right? He might record that. Watch
The
this.
latest Don Anderson poll has thrown a wrench into the machinery of political ambition, with performance and favorability ratings shifting between the leaders of the two political parties. Sandy Williams reports.
Hey, Professor. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Yes, man. All right. All right. So I just talked to the audience, you know, and we just said we have to show a little feature before you know, you log in. But you log in, so we just stop it and we're gonna start it over. Because we want to have a little discussion about the poll, you know. Right? You can introduce yourself to the audience for me, please, and thanks.
Yes. I am Christopher Charles. I am a trained psychologist. Was trained to the PhD level as a psychologist at the Graduate Center to the University of New York. I also taught at the school full time as an academic when I was a PhD student. So I taught at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. I have been at University of the West Indies now for maybe 14, 15 years, and I'm a full tenured professor. I do work on elections, build models for elections, and a lot of other things that are unrelated to this topic, like skin bleaching, violence, gangs, crime, and so on. So my breadth is very broad because I focus on academic stuff, and I grew up in some of the most violent communities in Jamaica. So I ignore the uptown people when they speak on crime and how to solve it, because I have lived it. I'm a product of the inner city and a product of public schooling in Jamaica. So I'm always willing to give my expertise to important issues and important national matters, and let the chips fall where they may. Because on occasions, the two political parties are upset. So, but I have to just speak the truth. And so here I am to give my professional knowledge and judgment on election matters.
Okay, lovely. All right. I'll see they came out with a new poll just like few days ago, like last week. But you know, people in Jamaica tell you the truth, right? People in Jamaica don't trust that poll. It's a blue dot poll, right?
What did it say?
It's saying now Andrew Onis ahead. I don't look at it, you know. I don't even take my time and look at it. But San Jones and the Jamaica Labour Party leading. But
All right. So if we put it in context,
yes,
in 2020, he was ahead, and we could believe that for various reasons. We're not going to revisit those reasons now. So there are times before when he was ahead, and the evidence was there.
Mm-hmm.
But this time is a bit different.
Yes.
And why am I saying this? Since 2020, the People's National Party has been creeping up slowly on the Jamaica Labour Party, meaning if you track the Don Anderson poll, and even Blue Dot over time, the People's National Party and Mark Golding, creeping up slowly. And the last Don Anderson poll that I recall said that Mark Golding was leading Andrew Holness by 9.3%. And 9.3. So just over 9%.
Yes, I don't want to cut you, but can I just play a clip with the last Don Anderson poll, and then you just...
Okay, so I hope I said it correctly, because I'm just going from memory. Yes.
Yes.
The survey, conducted between September 27 and October 3, polled 1,012 citizens 18 years and older across the island to gauge the country's top political player. Opposition leader Mark Golding leads the field with a 36% favorability rating to Prime Minister Andrew Holness's 32.5%. This is a shift in positions, just 6 months shy of a PNP-commissioned Don Anderson poll. According to pollster Don Anderson, Mark Golding's favorability has been improving from a 15% rating in 2023.
By the beginning of 2024, we saw the People's National Party actually narrowing that gap. In February, when we did the poll before the local government election, the JP was 1 percentage point ahead. So what we saw was a gradual trend where the gap between Andrew Holness on the one hand and Mark Golding on the other in terms of favorability rating narrowed to the point where in this particular poll in September, that line crossed.
On the other hand, Prime Minister Andrew Holness faces a cold reception with a 39.9% unfavorable rating to Mr. Golding's 25.8%.
You find that the younger persons were now shifting towards the People's National Party and towards Mark Golding. And the People's National Party still had the kind of support amongst the older population. But what we found that's probably making the real difference is that more and more young persons are embracing the rating for Mark Golding rather than Andrew Holness.
Additionally, 38.2% of the respondents had no opinion of Mr. Golding, compared to 27.5% for Mr. Holness. Respondents were also asked to rate the performance of the leaders. 42% rated Mr. Golding's performance as average, compared to 17.2% who rated it as good, and 15.2% rated it very good. 14.7% said Mr. Golding's performance is very poor, while 10.9% believe it's poor. For Mr. Holness, however, 30.7% of the respondents rated his performance as average, 25.2% said it's very poor, 15.9% believe it's poor, 14.5% rated it good, and 13.8% very good.
Elections are won on election day. Whilst this is the pattern which has developed, I think both parties will take note of what is taking place and therefore apply ameliorative measures. So it does mean that they have something to be concerned about.
So we get a spin. It's a spin right round.
All right. So let me just collect. Let me just and I respect Don Anderson.
Yes.
I've been following him since he started. I am a disciple of the late Carl Stone, and I respect Don Anderson very much. But one of the myths is that the election is won on election day. The election is won across the 5 years. The people look at what has happened to them over 5 years. It's not an election day thing or a campaign thing. Under certain conditions, when the race is close, if you do some things good or many things good during the campaign, you'll get the edge.
Yes.
But the people really, so you win the election across the 5 years rather than just on election day. I understand sometimes what my senior colleague means by what you do on election day to get out the vote and so on. But we need to respect the voters.
Yes.
They're not using the campaign. They're using the 5 years, what we in political science and political psychology call the election cycle, And if your message will either campaign, which will either square what they have experienced over the 5 years, or it doesn't square with it. It doesn't match up. So we have to be careful because the voters are very sophisticated. A lot of people think they have to be a professor and have only degrees like myself. No, you don't need a university degree to understand how the economy is impacting your life.
Yes.
If you're suffering, you're suffering. You don't need a degree to determine that.
Yeah.
If you're not safe, you're not safe. Or if you're safe, you're safe. You don't need a degree to determine that. So we have to be careful and respect the voters. They are very sophisticated and they look at what is happening across time and not just on election day. And it's not just election day, it's what you're doing over time in terms of strategy. So if your strategy is an election strategy, you're more likely to lose it. Your strategy has to be long term, right? But with regards to the polls now, one of the things we know in the science, and I don't teach politics, I teach political science, because everything I'm telling you is what we know from the science in Westminster liberal democracies. Because of the commonality of the system and the culture and some of the similar political history and so on, the political behavior, there are some commonalities in terms of political behavior that we see and we know. So for example, when the incumbent, the party in power, starts to get unpopular, right, mean that the people start to turn against them, what we do know from the science is that it doesn't tend to get better. It tends to get worse, right? So unless something major happened to shock the Jamaican polity, as we like to say, or body politics, as other people like to say, but we like to say polity, P-O-L-I-T-Y, unless something major happened to shock the polity, right? And that thing would have to be a negative that is working against the PNP.
Yes.
They should be increasing in the polls because one, some major things have occurred. People are not going to forget the salary increase for parliamentarians. I have argued publicly that they deserve the salary increase, but that's not what the average Jamaican thinks, right? So the people, unlike what some people think, that they're going to listen to me. No, it's their lived experience politically they're going to use. So the majority of Jamaicans were upset about the increase and the Integrity Commission report, right? So we are waiting for the case in court, but no one wants their prime minister to be so accused. So even when we are suspending judgment, it's something that doesn't look good. And so because we know things tend to get worse for the governing party once they start to lose popularity, and we look at the Integrity Commission and so on, the report and so on, we haven't seen anything in the political environment that would indicate that the JLP is likely to be ahead or will be ahead or should be ahead.
All right, so make us say something to you too. You don't say, and there's something big that happened. You bring me right back to 2007. When you remember that thing, when it's a traffic guru, when them run with that thing, Porsche end up lose one seat?
All right, so we have to be careful when we use the one things, because since 1989, if you were tracking the numbers, the JLP was creeping up slowly on the People's National Party. Creeping up slowly. So 2007 wasn't a shocker for people like myself because we were tracking the numbers. So traffic guru would cause people to be upset, but would it be different from any of the accusations that were leveled against the PNP before? So remember, the argument stands that the people look at what is happening over time rather than just one thing.
But that was a PR, because it worked out to be a PR. And
so the people were evaluating the PNP over time. So even in 2011, when we talk about big things that shock the body politics. So when Christopher Michael Coke, who we call the general, right, Sharpman, short boss. And so my students who he paid their tuition at university, them say Uncle Mikey.
Yes.
So Chris, in trying to extradite him, and the refusal to sign the extradition warrant, and so on, and the disaffection because of that over time,
Yes.
right? That shut the body politics. So there was no way that the JLP could have won in 2011, even they changed 50 leaders. Because even Jamaica Labour Party supporters were upset about how that was handled.
So them saying that.
Yes. So it has to be big.
Yes. But
right? And so yeah.
IMF when they borrow the money and then they fall upon that. So it's like you get a double sucker. You get that with the leader.
You get several things, you know.
Yes.
So there's never usually one thing. So you're right. There are several things and they're all interconnected. But
yes.
I'm saying the point I'm making, even though I single out the failure of Bruce Gordon to sign the extradition warrant in 2011, it took place over time.
Yes.
And people over 2 years, and people are watching across time, and they make a decision about all the things that have happened to them and what they don't like over time, rather than just to look within an election year. So I'm saying, we are saying, and I'm talking about informed, trained political scientists, that if someone says to us, what do you think? It's not impossible for the JLP to win it, but it's unlikely. It's unlikely given all that we are seeing. So once the political party in power, the governing party, starts to lose popularity, unless something major happens for them that is positive, we expect the decline to continue, which is how it normally happens in Westminster liberal democracies.
Yes. Them don't build up back. From you start lose that steam and people distrust these people. Plus, you have to add the SSL and that too, you know, with you saying
yeah, man, there are several things.
And everything. These people, that's why when I see that poll came out, I don't even look at it. And by the way, this poll, this Blue Dot poll, always have the PMP down.
Well, I asked, so the question I have, and I, as a professional, I try not to impugn people's integrity. So the question I'm asking, and I'm going from memory, so Blue Dot has every right to correct me. And please feel free to correct me. In my memory, I have not seen a Blue Dot poll where the JLP, right? The deficit, the JLP is behind outside of the margin of error. The deficit is outside of the margin, meaning that they are really behind. What I can recall, and Blue Dot management and owners, please do. If I'm off, please correct me. I don't recall a Blue Dot poll that shows the JLP being behind. It's always that they are, if they're a point or two behind the PNPs within the margin of error. And if they're ahead of the PNPs either within the margin of error or outside, meaning that they're building up steam, right? So for your listeners, the margin of error, and I'm saying it in a very trivial way, the margin of error means the extent to which the poll can be wrong. And that is usually, not all the time, depending on the sample size, is usually plus or minus 3%. So normally, when you want to make sense of the polls, right, and someone is leading, right, I tend to just be on the safe side, minus a 3, right? So there's no way, given the polls that we know to be credible, or the most respected pollster, which is Don Anderson, that the JLP can be leading in any systematic or in a significant way, rather. Or it's not impossible, but we haven't seen the evidence that they are leading or should be leading in a significant way, right? So for example, elsewhere I was asked about, well, some of my colleagues, because I build election models, and I built one for the US as well, for the election, the presidential election. some of my colleagues would normally call me and they say, Chris, how is it that the Prime Minister is the best performing minister and then he's also the worst performing minister? So
Yes.
this is where now my colleagues and I are different from the commercial posters. We would never question their competence in terms of doing a poll, but it's their lack of understanding of the international body of scientific evidence. So, for example, the Prime Minister in Westminster liberal democracies hires and fires minister. He's the head of the government. He's very powerful. So even if people don't like something he's doing, he's responsible for the ministers that may be performing or people might see as doing well. So if you ask the question, who is the best performing minister? He's the top minister. So you're likely to get an inflation, right? Because of his role, his structural and functional role within Westminster liberal democracies. But if you ask who is the worst performing minister, you remove that structural and functional situation from the people's mind. Then that is why he fell. Right? Because that's how the people are experiencing it. But if he's the head and he's responsible for all of that, all of those people, if you ask it that way, he's more likely to be seen that way. But when you ask who's the worst performing, that's why he fell. And that squares with the favorability ratings, right? That has been going down over time, and the fact that more people are saying that the country is going in the wrong direction. So all these numbers, are going in a particular direction. So the blue dot pollsters have some questions to answer. So I can't say I wasn't in the field with them, but there are some questions to answer.
More than question. All right. I'm going to show you something with the same blue dot. But I'm going to play something else right now. Right? Because they run to a local government election, then give us something on the popular vote and the vote thing. We see that. Now, September, they run something in St. Anne's with Matthew Samuda.
Mm-hmm.
And him came out and Blue Dot poll said, yes, if even PNP that win him, that win. And him say, he challenge himself 10,000 seats and they turn off a film vote. The vote when get, it tell you the mind, the state of the people because them did a try, a matter of fact, make a play. Them did a try test the vote of them now. And all the big wigs from the JLP went there, said them launching. Them do everything, hands out and everything. But this is the result. Watch this. Look, this.
Meanwhile, TVJ News sat down with Matthew Samuda today, who is not only confident of victory in Northeast St. Anne, but is challenging himself to pull some 10,000 voters out on election day.
So him put a challenge with himself. 10,000 and him show them the canvases and everything. But
Jamaica Maitland reports.
The roles have been reversed, according to former Senator Matthew Samuda, who is contesting the by-election for Northeast St. Anne on a Jamaica Labour Party JLP ticket. A campaign manager to members of Parliament for years, Mr. Samuda is now an aspirant.
Nothing is ever guaranteed in life, but what I will say to you is I expect to carry Shiny Robinson's legacy on to victory, and will work very hard to achieve that.
Mr. Samuda has been tapped by the JLP to take over from Marcia Smith. Ms. Smith resigned as MP on Tuesday. Samuda, he resigned as senator and also minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. As to whether he's been tapped for another specific position in the cabinet, he declined to comment.
My primary focus is simply ensuring that the Jamaica Labour Party is returned at the end of the by-election, and then after that I will see where and how, and if the Prime Minister wants me to serve in any capacity, I'll make myself available.
Matthew Samuda has been canvassing in Northeast St. Anne for at least a year. During an interview at the JLP headquarters, he says his team is ready.
We've been politically organizing and resetting the seat to be ready for a general election. But we are ready for any election, and I believe results will prove that.
Northeast St. Anne is traditionally a JLP safe seat. The late Shahini Robinson was MP since 2001. She died in 2020. Mr. Samuda says his aim is to get at least 10,000 voters on election day. The JLP received 9,169 votes to the PNP's 4,747 in the 2020 general election. Over 41,000 voters were registered in the constituency at the time.
Though it's a constituency-wide assessment, you want to win all 4 divisions comfortably so that there's a level of dominance in the constituency.
As to how he plans to do it, well, Mr. Samuda says the untapped synergy between the parish's natural resources and the economy are among some of the top campaigning issues.
Priory, St. Anne's Bay, Draxall, Ocho Rios, Exchange with White River, etc. If you look at the natural assets of that space, it has more potential than anywhere I can think of in the Caribbean. But its people need to feel that benefit. Its people need to see that their government is connecting the dots for them to realize their own hopes and dreams.
Jamila Maitler.
So make us say something before. I don't just show point out something to you, right? Here, them carry all the big wigs. Him challenge himself for them canvas. The blue dots back him up. If the party, if election did run them that win, right? The blue dot love back them up with the foolishness. Because them love draw them thing. You know what him get on the night. Remember the canvas for a year. Remember them spend like 100 million. 30 million for them spend over 69. That's 1.5 to 70 million for do them thing. What them I do? Maybe them spend a little more, but them they put 69 million. Right? Going to have 70 million plus 30 million for keep that, right? Government make 30 million, them charge for keep that. You know what's simple? Remember, I'm a challenge himself. Remember, if the government are going good, you can know. 2 o'clock, I go 3 o'clock, 1,800. Right?
So the voter turnout was very low.
But she performed the last time.
So the voter turnout was very low. And so now, the voter turnout was very low. But Cheyenne legacy is still strong. So we would have expected a JLP win. However, the low voter turnout shocked the Jamaica Labour Party. They were very disappointed with the low voter turnout. So that is telling you something, because they expected to get a higher turnout. So they would have to tell us why the voter turnout was that low, and they're not going to do that. I don't think so. I would love that as a political psychologist, as a professional observer and researcher on elections in Jamaica, the Caribbean, and the US. I would love to see that, but I don't expect it.
Okay. We can put the next one to you now. That was September. Now we're going to October. That's right here. The four by-election again. This time now, them go for St. Thomas. Them spend money. We see. We have people up here, so we see what go on. We have videos and everything. Them spend money. And in town, that down in a Clarendon, and them swear them gonna win this seat. Helicopter land, everything. Them sing everything. And even the one Nigel Clark seat. So them run that seat, right? And them run the one in Trelawney. Look on the voter turnout again. Now, that's why I can't understand them blew that poll. No, them tried 3 times now at the poll. Now, St. Thomas seat them gone. St. Thomas seat and the other one gone. Them couldn't stand up to that. But the one Nigel Clark seat, 1,000, how much him get? 1,800?
No, I can't recall the exact number.
1,800. And the one in Trelawney, she get 4,000. Over how much, over 25,000. She get 4,000. But Fear Talk is, that's the one that farmer speaker. She said, oh, the people, them gone a bush. A farmer gone a bush. I have it here. She said, them gone a bush. That's why the voter turnout. I make her tell you something though, and you deal with this, right? If the people them interested in that party, them would turn out. I know that.
All right, so let me tell you again what you understand from political behavior in the local sense. Our Jamaicans are, they would prefer not to show up, than to vote for the rival party. So when your party supporters don't show up, it's a very bad sign. It's the proverbial red flag. Something is terribly wrong. So the political socialization in Jamaica, where people are socialized to support either the PNP or JLP, and most people support the party that their family that they grew up with supports. And it's common across the world. It's nothing unique to Jamaica. And so we know that in the Jamaican case, the issue voters, the group, while it may be increasing, is not as large as in other countries like Canada, the US and the UK and so on, and even Barbados, right? So what the voters do when they are dissatisfied, rather than vote for the opponent that they were socialized not ever to do, to vote for the other side, they were socialized not to vote for the rival, what they do to register their protest is to stay home.
But the next thing though, them did have independence because those two seats never contested by the PNP, but people turn out for the independent.
Yes,
That guy
that also.
shockwave.
So yes, so it depends on the percentage of the votes the independents got, but independents tend to get less than 1%. So it depends on. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
It gets, I think, 1,000 something, nearly 2,000.
But what is the percentage of the vote what's the voter turnout in the constituency?
I think the independent one who run against her, I nearly get half of her account. She get 4,100. And
an independent got what, 2,000?
Two, yeah, like 1,900, right?
No, well, that would be very good.
Yes.
For an independent, and independent tend not to do well in Jamaican politics. We normally say jokingly among colleagues that Jamaica is a graveyard for third parties, right? Jamaica is a graveyard for third parties. So third parties and independents tend not to do well at elections. And the reason is the role of the two major parties in universal adult suffrage, the nationalist movement, and political independence and nation building. So they were the parties supported by the British colonialists as the Westminster apprentices on a internal self-government that became full-fledged bona fide parties and independence. So traditionally, they are the strong parties. So in that case, where an independent would get 50% of what the JLP candidate got, that is a telling sign. That is bad omen, given what we know about the performance of independents and third parties in Jamaica. They have failed dismally. So if this person, the independent, could get that amount, it's a warning of things to come.
Because that's the same thing I'm saying right here. Because I say no, independent used to get maybe a couple hundred and maybe 150, 200, 300, but this independent stand up. And she finds something to say because she a campaign long time down there. But she still have an issue also, because the issue with the lives at the IC, yes, with the car, the concession and everything and all kind of things, them still have issues. And you put her back in, like them don't respect the people, the voters, or you don't respect Jamaica. You understand? People moving away from this. That's why we still question the Blue Dot poll. Because these elections come and it's show, and the Blue Dot them run out and say yes, if them call them a win, and if this, even in September, it no work for them weird. I see.
All right, so what has happened in terms of polling? Everybody in Jamaica, they are researchers, Everybody said they are researchers. So I did my research, and so I can tell you that when it comes to polling, there are some people I wouldn't pay to do anything. Right? I keep my mouth shut most times because I am very sensitive to people's earnings, and I don't want to undermine, to criticize, to tear down. Right? So one of the things that I've seen, and I occasionally speak of it, and I'll speak about it now, and this is what we know about voters globally, including the Caribbean and Jamaica in particular. We say in political psychology and in political science that voter preference is relatively stable. It changes slowly. So if you do a poll in July 2023 and you do a poll in October 2023, you're not going to see much difference. And that is why we know this, any political scientists work their salt. So I don't listen to political commentators. I don't listen to the media. As much as they give me time to speak, right?
Yes.
Right? And I have regard for some of them. I tend not to listen because we know from the science that voter preference or what the voters will do, their decisions is relatively stable. They're not that fickle. Today is this, tomorrow is that, and within 2 weeks they change their mind. No. Why? Because as I have said, they are looking at the thing over time. They are watching. And this is another reason why I don't expect the JLP to be just, they cannot be still looking ahead based on what we know of vote. Right? So also we know that in Westminster, the leader carries the party. So if the leader is up by several percentage points, the gap between the parties should in some way mirror that. So if you see discrepancy between that the leader is out there, ahead, but the gap between the parties are a few percentage point difference, then we know something is wrong because it is it's how the people feel about the leader drives the popularity and the electoral fortunes of the party. So you can even look at any time, in any electoral period, at the difference between where the leader is and where the difference between two leaders and difference between the two parties. And they should be relatively similar. So I'm just giving cues to understand. You see, for example, when people think I'm not arrogant, when I do my work and people see me, they can't stop me. Students stop me. I have students born JLP, many of my friends, them ask anything with them want. My work is open, right? I open my work, right? To anybody when I can, I talk. I'm not going to hide anything, right? And there are some things that are just basic that I find is either willful ignorance or strategic incomprehension. Because, for example, the political commentators will tell you, you see that statement that elections won on the day? You are disrespecting the voters.
I know
people,
that. But
let me just make this point.
Yes.
Because they look at people, the parties over time. There's a myth that low voter turnout favors the incumbent. So if you listen to the political commentators, right? Low voter turnout favors the incumbent. And I've made this point repeatedly, and some of the journalists can't get it. It's simple. A number can only be high or low in reference or in comparison to another number. Right? So your scores can only be high in the class or low in comparison to the scores of the other students. All right? So we shut up that first. And I hope those journalists, not all of them, those who didn't get it last time are listening. So, the voter turnout in Jamaica has been declining since 1980 for each election, getting lower and lower. So if you tell me that the voter turnout, there's low voter turnout now, right? Each such an election, the voter turnout is lower than the previous one because it has been declining steadily since 1980. With that kind of reason, you would not have had a change of government since 1980. But they keep saying it, which tells me that they do not understand basic mathematical operations, and they don't understand how the system works. So let me give you another example of the confusion, right? And if you notice, I don't even know the numbers now.
Yes.
It is because just nonsense sometimes comes out as public discussion. Let me give another example of people's lack of understanding of the Westminster system that we inherited from Britain. And even lawyers will say that. I've heard them publicly saying it. So, I want the seat numbers in the parliament to be closer because I want rigorous debate. It is not the numbers that do the rigorous debate. Because both sides, if one side has 62 and the other one have one, that one person can take them on the same way. And that person alone is going to vote for his party. So it doesn't matter the size of the difference in terms of seat numbers. The parties, based on convention, are going to lock arms and vote and make their votes heard and count in a partisan way. Whether the difference is 6 seats or 5 or 1 or 2 or 20 doesn't affect the quality of the debate. And it doesn't affect the quality of the democracy. As a matter of fact, it's an index of democracy because at least the people were able in a free and fair election to give one side more than the other because they think that side deserves it. That is democracy. But when you listen to them, you hear all kinds of things that they like this. It's what they like, but that's not how. So there are so many problems. So they will tell you that this man is too old or too young to run. Right? And I always say, in Westminster, liberal democracy, if you say a candidate is too old, you're discriminating. It's age discrimination. And just like in the past, we have said some people are too young to run, even though they are competent. So who determines that? Not Christopher Charles, who's a university professor, or the political commentators, or the journalists, right? And there's a segment, my college called the CXE journalists. No disrespect to CSEC, but they seem not to be able to understand some basic things. So it is what the people want. So if you want to know, if I'm 85 and I'm going to run in a constituency, it's not what you and I or others think, it is what the people in the constituency thinks. And if you do your sounding, your canvassing and your internal polls in the constituency and speak to the key people in your party and on the other side, right? That's what you should use because those are the people who are going to vote for an 85-year-old person, right? So, but you have people outside, not in the constituency, saying people too old, people too young, that's not how Westminster works. That's not the liberal democracy work. It's determined by choice, not public commentators, right? And I'm saying all these things, right? Because I hear political commentators say the parties are different. And I always say, but they're most of the time they follow IMF conditionality. So how different do you expect them to be? So what you should be talking about is who is managing or has managed the economy better, right? Rather than saying, oh, they are so different. Right? I hear the People's National Party criticizing Tufton on ventilators and Tufton pushing back, which is a rigorous debate. And commentators are saying that they are quarreling. What? They are supposed to go at each other, and you, the journalists and the commentators, are supposed to unpack that for the public, rather than saying that they are quarreling.
Let me ask you something though. With that, no, with like a Christopher Tufton, right? I always, because I keep it real around here, and you're running, all right, when he was in the opposition seat, I'm Dr. Ferguson. You remember when you talk about that baby and thing and then run out and him and do all kind of things? No, you change your shoes. Christopher Tufton, him do not take, him tell me I'm not sure because him came, I'm not sure. Him not take responsibility for nothing.
All right. So I'll share something here because I'm a former senior civil servant. So when I talk, I'm not talking water in my mouth. So he was one of the ministers when I was a senior citizen that I had to work with. And we were traveling overseas. So at the time, I'm a civil servant that would do the book the hotel, get the money, make sure the minister's per diem is have the team. And he did something that I always talk about. When we were going to that international meeting, as a PNP member, the young leader that he took, the youth leader that he took on that trip, was a JLP youth leader. I remember, I'm from some of the harshest communities. Yes, my father is different than from another social class, but I grew up with my mother, who was Jewish, by the way, and I'm not going to hide where I grew up. So in seeing Dr. Ferguson, right, taking a youngster from the rival side with us on our delegation, Mr. Ratted, and in my young stage and troublesome, say, Mr. This man is new and different, right? So I know him, and the person who was working with him as his assistant, he inherited from the previous minister. He said he wasn't a tribalist, and he kept that person on in the ministry, right? And when he spoke, right, I know him, but in the thrust of politics, he misspoke and it became a big thing, right? And when you're a politician, you're as competent as the people you have around you, right? You're as competent. A lot of times, I hear people talking about the civil service, about constitution, the role of the prime minister, and political mobilization. I've been schooled. I dream these things because I was trained at university by some of Michael Manley wise guys, and I was trained by others who didn't like Michael Manley. But I understand the politics, and I did it overseas, and I'm a part of the American Political Science Association, the World Association for Public Opinion Research. So this dialogue I'm having with you is the dialogue I have with colleagues around the world. So Dr. Ferguson, they ran out on him, and as a former senior civil servant, I understand and I know why it happened. He misspoke, and it made good political sense to attack him, right? But how the attack works, if you do it, then when you're in power, people are going to run out on you the same way. And so that's fair game, right? So even though I know him and I know he's a man of integrity, he misspoke, and in the thrust of politics, you have to take licks. He took it, right? But and so when the shoe's on the other foot, you also have to take those licks.
But the governing party right now, they don't take responsibility, and it can't be.
All right. Let me qualify that for you. They take some responsibility, which is selective responsibility taking, meaning that they take responsibility for the things that they frame as good. And so negatives are not happening. So the struggles my students have at the university, right? I used to have what I call the pizza test, because my generation as students were so proud. Or when we are studying for Hungry Belly, we were just proud and we couldn't function a certain way. So I used to have the pizza test. It's not a deliberate test, but when I feel that I want to go rogue from my regular diet, I would buy pizza for lunch. So between the car park and my office, I would lose 4 slices of the pizza. And the kids are not disrespectful, right? They're hungry, right? The parents don't have it. They're not eating. right? So since I've been at the university, I have never asked a student to buy a book. I always ask my universities in the States, City University of New York at that time, now Columbia University. I take material and I provide it to the students because things are rough. And we know this. We're not embarrassing. I'm not talking about any specific student. No one will know who the students are. I'm just saying things are rough on our students. Sometimes they can't manage the tuition. And the university, rightly so, has to deregister them. Is at that time the government will run in and pay for them because they don't want the students to protest and vote against them in the election. Right? So for me, I ask people to look at the lived experience. So for example, it is true that unemployment is the lowest in Jamaica's history. Is that true? Yes. But there's a catch. It's the things that build up make the low unemployment are really low productive jobs with very low wages. What my students who do research on labor matters say is a lack of decent wage. The money is so small. So even though unemployment is very low, the lowest ever, right? People's material well-being is not really better because what they're earning is very, very small. It's in low-skilled jobs. And that's why the economy is not growing. That's why we're not thriving. So they will say, and I'm speaking now as a professional observer, they will say that unemployment is the lowest. True. But what about the kind of jobs and the wages that are being paid?
Yes, but because
a lot of people are still suffering.
Because of something though. You have a lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people not working. Them say them out of them not seeking a job. Or them sitting there. People want a job, but the job not paying. So them have a lot of people not working right now that we show off. And then we show off for next thing. Three things. That's one. Two, a lot of people hustling in Jamaica. You know, when you go Kingston and St. Andrew alone, the amount of people go hustle and just something to go sell, or you see them in the street. I say, them count them too, you know. Right? The next, yes, these things them count. A lot of people not working. This is what we show off. Right? Them say them now, you know, got the money, it's enough. They not pay them. And next thing, the third thing, they make people register, you know, say a small business, that the guy where you see in a Clarendon, in the on a plaza sell, and you see the Metro Police, them go take one things. Now you see him with him certificate. 3,000 something for register with company and say, okay, so them count at least you have job now, you're a small businessman, but you don't have nothing to sell.
All right, so let me just share this with you.
Combination and unemployment, and you know, we still a question.
Critics always say we must not use Singapore, so I'll use Singapore on the advisement. Right?
Yes.
When the Singapore economy started to expand, there were nobody on the street selling. You don't have any vendor because the economy was doing so well that was able to absorb these people. So if you're not an economist, if you want to know if the economy is doing well, and Jamaica is doing very well, the vendors that take up the sidewalks in the parish capitals wouldn't exist because they'll be making more in industry, right? So these are simple things that you think about them, right? So if the economy is doing well, you're going to absorb a lot of those people. So I know, as someone from the ghettos of Kingston, I'm not going to hide. You know, I know people who don't want anybody to know where they're from. I'm proud of where I came from, right? Because I came out with good values based on my parents,
yes.
And I got a good education, and the bad man them protect me, and them still want to protect me. I mean, I have to call them off all the time when people trouble me. I have to call them off because there's no joy in hurting anyone, right? So, you know, so sometimes when I speak, sometimes I sound angry and sound frustrated. It is because of the kinds of discussions that I hear in Jamaica, and I am a proud product of the public school system in Jamaica. Proud product, primary school, traditional high school, right? So when I hear things, I have to respond. I was in a program recently where one person told me that the police said that they dismantled 185 gangs. And I said, when, where, give me the data, which gang, how many members, which community, which political party they are affiliated to, when were they dismantled, what happened, did you go through the courts or you killed them, right? So there's no way, that's a lie.
It's a lie. You ever had
Something I got upset that morning. You know why I got upset?
Yes.
Because people, they hear the last name, and of course, my father is up there, or was, wherever you want to see.
Yes.
Right? But I'm a child of the inner city. I have family members on both sides, mother and father side, killed by the police, extrajudicially, killed by gang members. Right? I was traumatized as a child by gang violence and political wars. So I have a vested interest in the dismantling of the gangs. But when you come and tell a lie that the police, they have dismantled on 85, we do have the evidence, and you want me, a victim of the inner city,
yes,
but also a beneficiary of the Jamaican education system, which I hope will spread and get wider so more young people can get the opportunities I got from the public school system. So when you come with the lies to someone like me, right, who has lived it, who have taught at reputable schools in the United States, right, who is doing the research along with others, I'm going to speak out. So for example, and one of the reasons why some of us use the term CXC journalists, I learned about 40 years ago in high school, because my generation, we were the CSEC, CXC, GC guinea pig, and we were doing data analysis. So data analysis is a big term. What is this? And I was told in fourth form that we're looking at data at a minimum 5 years. It's decades ago, I learned that in high school, and we have members of the government, the media, political commentators, and unfortunately, some of my university colleagues, unfortunately, a few of them rather, who rather than look at crime over time, they will tell you that there's a 21.4% difference in the homicide rate between 2024 and 2023. And it's going down so far this year. Really?
That's stupid.
Really? 1 year difference? And I made an error, which I was trying to correct.
Yes.
But the producer didn't get back to me because I said that the decline never usually decline more than a year. But that's not true. Over time, it goes down several years and it comes back several years. And these are basic things we know. If you enumerate, if you see what we call the U-shaped curve or the bell curve, where the numbers are going up and down and they're forming like a bell, like a wave, right? If you see that in the numbers, if you do the graph, the line graph, and you see the wave, what it means the numbers occur randomly. It's not anything that anybody is doing. When you have a normal distribution in that wave, it means the occurrences or the happenings. Let me stop using that term, the occurrences or data points. The happenings occur randomly. That's why you have that kind of distribution. And that tells us that that didn't occur because of policy. We can give you the points: 67, 1974, 1976, 2017, 2018, when either state of emergency, Suppression of Crimes Act, or state of emergency on ZOSO, as in 2017-18, when you can see a drop in the numbers. But generally, the numbers are up and down. So to come to tell me who come from communities, right, where murderers are, who have studied and continue to do research, and you come to tell me about a difference of this year compared to last year, and that you have dismantled 185 gang. Where? So I have no interest in who wins,
No,
I just want the truth. And don't bamboozle us.
Make I tell you something. These are just some political PR to just make government look good and something. It's just political PR. It's stupid.
So my students ask me, for example, some things, and I would say to them, because they hear all kinds of things. And Michael Manley, I laud him, but I also criticize him. And they would say, why would you laud him? And I would say to them, all right, so you're at UNO. If the government should say, you don't pay the 300,000 or the 400,000 or the 600 or whatever, depending on your faculty, your tuition, you don't pay that. And the cost for living on all that you would pay to live for 1 year, you get that every year, and you don't pay the tuition. Would that be a wonderful thing? They said yes. We said that's what Michael Manley did. Just to give an example. And we can look at things that we didn't like, but I'm just letting them know that we criticize him and we criticize him harshly too, but there are some things that we are grateful for, right? For example, housing trust, right? When I could go and when I'm buying a property, it's my contribution and the government giving me a loan, plus I can get the rest from the market, from the banks. Wonderful. So I asked them how many houses were built on the social housing there. This is my students now, because sometimes I don't follow the numbers because I'm just tired sometimes of what I'm hearing. They would tell me 34. So I said to them, when housing trust was built, when I was a child, were you aware that there were thousands of houses built per year? Thousands. So what has happened? We have destroyed housing trusts in terms of what it should do. They are now building houses that even a person like me can't afford. What about the average Jamaican? So it is things like these that when I'm teaching, my students will tell you. I mean, sometimes they beg me not to quarrel with politicians. I mean, just quarrel. And I give examples from both sides because I have no axe to grind. And I'm coming from lived experience plus research and as a professional political scientist, political psychologist. So I expect, I'm waiting on more polls and more research. And, I will speak in the future because if I see evidence that one party is going to overtake another, then I will say it and I'll explain why. But I can't come as a product of the Jamaican public school system. I have a duty as a patriotic Jamaican, right? As someone who got more education than most Jamaican got, to explain things to my people and let the chips fall where they may, right? So there are times when I speak, and I leave Jamaica, because my ears, they're also very powerful. I have ears on the ground, I have ears in all institutions, and I have ears up top. And so you spoke to me some years ago, and I was in Europe.
Yes.
I took some time out on the advisement, and I left, and I was observing, right? Because sometimes people are fearful about what happened to me. I mean, I have no fear. And the reason is I owe it as a debt to the Jamaican people to always speak up. Right? And so it doesn't matter. Right? Once there's no evidence, I'm going to say there's evidence. There's evidence for it, I'll say there's evidence. And if I see the evidence say you're leading, I'm going to say it.
No,
Right?
this blue dot poll is a fake, and I like you, I just make the chip fall with him there, you know. You have to speak to the power because if you have 3 different elections, one local but 2 by-election, one not too far from each other when them say, okay, if you call it in September, you win. But even him, the canvases that are mature, yes, in come up sharp, bad. Not even, when you think about over how much people in that constituency.
So let me, you said there are some technical procedural questions we can ask now.
Yes.
So when Blue Dot gets a poll, do they subcontract it out to others? And if they subcontract it out to others, do they know who's collecting the polls?
I don't well.
When I work in it, I have people who work with me now, who I will pay, but I'm also in the field. And I know what to look for. So even though I build most of the models, I've conducted surveys and polls before. So I want to know, so like a Blue Dot, the question is, do they subcontract out the poll to others, and do they know who the people are actually collecting the data? So let me give you an example. When you're collecting data, you have to have people in the field now, or people that the interviewers don't know that they're working with you. So I do work in West Africa, you know. I am doing a survey in a Muslim part of Accra called Nima. So I had this Muslim girl who I employed. Right, she was collecting data for me. So I am on the trotro, the minibus as they call it in Ghana, heading to Nima. So I said to her, I called her and said, "Are you in Nima?" She said, "Yes, I'm in Nima collecting data." So she thought I was home. So I went to Nima, and I said, and in that culture, use landmarks sometimes for direction. So I'm at the primary school gate in Nima. Where are you? All hell broke loose. All kind of things happened, and she couldn't come to see me because some emergency at home. She wasn't in the field. So we have a lot of ways to know if when you're in the field, if you're actually collecting the data, right? She didn't know how much I knew that West African country, especially the capital, I could move around, right? But even I'm not there, I have Jamaicans. Some of them I visited when I was in the UK, who were teaching there, and they have students, and those students just come up and say, "What are you doing? What is this? Can I participate?" and whatever. And just they don't know that those are my people. So you have ears and eyes in the field as well, over and above the people you employ. So I would like to know if these things happen with Blue Dot, or do they do these things, right?
But you see the real test, I'm going back to it again, you know. You say if them never have no election, no by-election, and them thing, then you never have the whole of these things. The Prime Minister, no statutory declaration, no certified from 2021. People see money like 400 and something million I run through 3 accounts. People see all kind of things in front of them eyes. You know, they must suffer. You remember you have a lot of people on load busing and taxes, you know. So them survive. That's why I say even when them say people are work, you remember we have a lot of hustlers. Hundreds of thousands of hustlers right across Jamaica. Just look the market. Remember, no people employ these people. You know, yes, I self-employed, but not for them hustlers. Loading taxi, loading bus, you know, do all kind of things, right? Right, and it all cross, right? You see the election run in a September where all the big wigs come on, and let's see the deputy prime minister come and say we are launching everyone down there. One of them down there, and then them get the result. 2 o'clock, him have 1,800. I don't know him reach to 4,000, you know, by 5. But 2 after 2 I go 3 o'clock, 1,800 vote. When you say you're gonna get over 10,000, you canvas show that. So you get something wrong again. Now them go back for 4 by-elections, and them say we're gonna win this. A matter of fact, them have one come out and say I'll sweep and keep in a party and in birth night. We see Malone at him and goes in a liquor place. That's the one where Morgan and ask for money for himself and I say vote for Labour. So you say, wow. So oh, you get a poll like this now. When you have all of this, plus you Usain Bolt, we do so much for Jamaica and we watch this government. And now that, you know, when you see on the person we saw collect money, cut the money gone. get a money back from SSL is the Prime Minister 143,000 going our book. Just open at NCB, yeah, UK account, open at NCB, US account, open at NCB, and then get that money. We never see no account where money come from, but we see him get that money. You see him both another people money gone. And now up to the building cell. We don't hear nothing. You understand? So we have the IC, we have that, and we have so much other problem with the government. Right? So we don't know how you get a poll like this, but yet still when them go to the poll, it's the same thing over and over again. Them test the poll, test them or test it, Them test it now.
All right, so there's the belief, and it's very popular, that polls influences voting behavior. There's some truth to that, but it's very nuanced. So the funders look at the poll numbers, but the funders are not fools. So the funders look at the polls over time, and if you're leading and the gap is over time, and the gap is large, the party trailing will get very little money. They get some token money, but they are investing in the government, right? So you have that. You have the hardcore supporters for the party who is trailing. They might get a little uncomfortable, so the parties always jump up, right? And rile up their supporters and criticize the poll. So, for example, when the last Don Anderson poll that said that the PNP was ahead, it was rubbish by the JLP. But when Don Anderson's poll said they are leading, in previous time, they never rubbish it. So it is political, it is wrong when the PNP is leading. But when in earlier times when the JLP was leading, it was okay. So Don Anderson is either a reputable, trusted poster, which he is, or he's not. So you can't be selective in how you respond to polls. So is it that Don Anderson is so awful, so incompetent, and the Blue Dot persons, right? So a lot of the people who control Blue Dot, when Don Anderson started, they weren't born,
That's it.
Right? So actually, it was Mr. Siago who asked Don Anderson to go into polling. It was Siago who asked him. And he has had his challenges, but he has morphed into the most respected pollster in the Caribbean. Right?
Yeah.
And from the time there are the challenges, but I have to look at the evidence and wait. Right? And there are different ways to know what is happening. And we have some of those tools. And we will, over time, leverage those tools to get a better understanding.
But as we said before, I mean, I say it because we see these indicators. You say you're leading and you're doing this, and then you call the one down there and you say you're launch, and then you get such, you canvas, you do the canvas. You say you challenge yourself and you go and you watch me.
But there, I think the governing party is nervous.
Yes. So them
all the evidence that we have, and I'm talking about scholars now.
Yes.
Because our ears are all over. They are nervous.
Very.
And they are nervous for particular reasons.
True.
Right? And one of the reasons is they're not sure if some of the data that they are getting is correct. However, because of the belief that poll numbers influence how people vote, not remembering that if someone is suffering or is not doing well for 5 years, the poll can't stop them from voting against you.
That is it. No.
So if you have done well, you should sell that record in the campaign.
But I'm saying something to you now. Now we see the Prime Minister have it somewhere right here, because we just keep the evidence and evidence based to me. I like database, right? We see the Prime Minister come out now and different thing, and him start beg. I said, with no arrogance, and him start blame all the MP now, and say, no, we are come to you people, and we are beg, you know. Him start beg. You know, you people turn off, we are beg, you know, because with the MP,
So,
so them talk, so them are beg.
why did the Prime Minister wait until the election year?
I don't know.
What about the previous 4.5 years? By constantly saying to the ministers and the councillors, you need to be active, you need to be working, you need to be producing, you need to be providing and doing things. That is what you're supposed to be doing over the 5 years.
Because again, so the poll
rather than the last 8 months before an election.
Yes.
Or 6, whatever it is.
Right. Look on this. Remember, you know, them say poll, them come out to the poll. But may I show you the people them all over the place. Look on this. Just look on this. Yes, still the
Chasing people can move right now. Because when we look on the road, Chasing not the none they look over all now. We don't see no look all now. Look on the straight road. Look at the road turn. All just behave like that. Man, we go one side, man. I think time move now, man.
Over the years in a power, and I don't see what he is doing to Northeast West, Northwest St. Elizabeth. So you must go in, can expire, so you must go make a younger set come and take his seat. The last election, I don't vote for Ochi. So the next election, next year, then say to run, I will never vote if he no come out. We get fed up at Ochi.
Them time has come, you know. In fool the people them has enough. And the people them make up their mind and they say higher authority need to come on the ground and come know what go on.
Alright, so I'm not gonna show you in response now. No, them are coming up poll, but there's still this happening all over the Malo fort of a move to, you know. Them have problem all over the place, you know, but yes, still them have a poll. But the people them have a problem with them. With all these MP.
So what happened to the promised job description?
Well, I don't even know, you know. I'm going to show you something. Look when him answer now and disrespect the people. Watch this. That's why I say, you know, we not follow them. Look on this now. Him as a cabinet member and as a member of parliament. This is a him answer to the people them have vote to him. Hear this.
Many of you would have been seeing a demonstration that went on in Northwest St. Elizabeth. I don't want to go further into it, but I want you to understand, for every election that we have had, you have had the people coming out and demonstrating against me. And every election, I have won by a bigger majority. I told the area council a couple of weeks ago that the demonstration was coming because I call it the pre-election demonstration because we know it's coming. And I won't get into the sort of people who were there, but some of them, you help them once, you help them twice, and the time you don't help them, then turn around and cuss you. One of them has sent on farm work. And after 3 weeks, the man come back home, said the work too tough. He can't manage it. And then him now want the MP to support him. Another one you see in the picture, him admit that him got 50 chicken and 5 bag of feed from me. But I never give him the black drum. So you understand the people that I deal with in my constituency. So no matter what happened, they have become good. The rest of them who were there get $5,000 and a box lunch.
That's embarrassing. So this will go right now through the world.
All right. So is that the first time JLP supporters in his contention over the years have criticized him and have public demonstrated against him? This is nothing new, and in Jamaican politics, people can be upset with you and you still win.
No, they move
because the hardcore are
it.
not going to defect.
No, they move him though. Him gone.
Right? Yeah, what I'm saying is, so I'm just saying,
yes,
that can happen. Yeah, so I know that what you have said is correct. But
yes.
I'm just saying that the argument that because you win with a previous,
yes,
right, it doesn't mean that you're always going to win. Because a time will come when even the hardcore will not come out and vote, and you lose, or the party remove you.
Yeah, them say over the same thing. Hear him do the same thing. So now them in a West Point, them all over the place, don't run up and down. Them run scared like we just say. Them know that when you have a party leader with the clocks were about and not good again, instead of the machine will come together and say, no, I could move him because it might damage the whole party itself. Them keep him. You understand?
Yeah, but see, I'm just a university teacher. I don't know much about these things.
Yes.
But I would think that, the campaign will start from the first day of the electoral term. You have to be doing things and organizing. Unfortunately, in Jamaica, sometimes we see there's a flurry of activities in the election year. The people are not fools.
So it's a handout now, right now. That's not
right.
No, yes.
The people are not fools. By the time we get to the election year, the people, most of the voters already make up their minds. Matters have already been made up.
I know that.
Only when the election is very close, you can make some promises and the campaign becomes more relevant. How we know? Some of us all around the world can tell you 6-8 months without talking to anyone, just from modeling based on the data we get from about the economy, about crime, about employment, about business confidence, about consumer confidence, right? We can, gas prices, we can model and tell you months out. So we know if someone can tell you months in advance who is going to win, it tells you that it's more important to focus over time rather than the campaign. And the conditions we know under which election matters is when the race is very close. Campaign matters when the election is very close. So we never tell you not to campaign. But when you're campaigning, you're supposed to be heralding your successes, not dropping things in election year, because we call election year in political science and political psychology the political business cycle. Because there are a flurry of activities in the year of the election as if the voters are fools. They are not fools. And they should be respected.
This kind of thing. And then, it's so bad. It distasteful for you have a minister, cabinet minister, came back out when the people them attack, when you come and embarrass them and say you give them $5 grand and box lunch, the rest of them remove them still. But you can't talk to people like this. 2025? No. 2025. No, them time. It's so wrong. For them kind of politics, it's wrong. It's wrong. And the people them just start wake up.
Sometimes, when the governing party removes a member, it's just a strategy where the person is repurposed or repackaged, and then they show up, in a seat to represent a seat at another time or in a by-election. We don't expect any more by-election. So I sometimes, when they remove people, I take it with a grain of salt.
Yes. But not this one. All right. So you have one with Carl Samud. Him say I run back because them try pushing everybody and then it causes argument. And then him say I go back. Mike can receive them try push down Williams down there so to cause argument again. And
but in liberal democracies,
yes.
The convention, is the candidates are selected using several criteria. Respectability in the party, the prime minister's perception of their technical competence, what they can bring, and their standing in the country. They're standing in the party and the country as well as their technical competence. And
yes,
in Jamaica, and in this particular situation, the prime minister seems to be putting people around him right?
Yes.
Who supports him, and it makes political sense. But if he should lose, you want to have enough MPs, or that MPs that won, the majority of them are supporters, so he can remain as opposition leader, right? So the convention, which tells you in Westminster that you choose your candidates based on respectability in the party, respectability in the country, and their technical competence, sometimes that is shelved because you want people who support you, and if you're attacked, they have a seat and they can encircle you and defend your.
Oh, so it's a self-centered, serving self-centered thing. Because I mean,
For political survival,
Jamaica,
it can be interpreted in that way.
of course, because in Jamaica now it's like you moving now, you want your son in the seat, so it's a royalty thing. Your brother, who you want give the seat to.
Mm-hmm.
They're like people, them just take some people and put in the seat. For them people, for back them purpose. And you're right with that. Anyway, I see the time run out, and we have to carry you back,
Why? I'm very busy.
Yeah, I know, so we have to carry you back, because it go already.
I hope I was of some use to your listeners.
Of course. Everybody lock on and tune in, because I mean, as we point out already, if and we can say to the governing party, you try the by-election September, you try it in October 4 more where you say full wipeout, gone clean, that never work, the helicopter landing never work, nothing like this never work. And the Blue Dot poll, these kind of poll where we never seen the time from Blue Dot come in, where them have the PMP lead something, them always come with something where it's spook, key where other polls say you see the results. The Blue Dot, it come in September, same way say if them call election, them win, match him lose. I mean, nobody not turn out to vote for him. And then at 2 o'clock, 1,800 voters. The rest, like a stuff. You understand? It's bad. And then spend so much money. For what? The people them still turn off from them. You understand? So the people them now buy that again. This is 2025 year. Yes. Get real. My brother, enough salute, You understand?
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, my brother. Yes, you take care now, and we're gonna talk again soon, Yeah?
All right. Anytime.
All right, my brother. You take care.
We Lonesome, we a beat it till the hammer burn. We now make them get in on them and again. None of them boy that we none of them. We Lonesome, we a beat it till the hammer burn. We now make them get in on them and again. None of them boy that we none of them. We Lonesome, rise up the bomber dude.
I'm not a Judas, them a backstabber. I'm my wife, and she straight beauty and glamour. No guy can walk to name me with no dagger. Maybe the heart of Mandela, but the mind of a Zama in the mold. Like a bull man, we send us the jammer. Lyrically inclined, be a metaphor, so no listen to lyrics line to line. Become a lyrical fighter, put up in everything, they want some more hole in a hater. Lyrically inclined.